Imagine stepping into a really crowded, highly public space, right?
Mm.
And you just utter this three-word phrase that instantly causes an entire crowd to abandon their debate, pick up heavy stones, and to try to execute you right there on the spot.
Yeah, just absolute immediate chaos.
Right. Today, we are opening up a set of incredibly detailed study notes, along with textual analysis from the Holman and NAA study Bibles, and we're focusing entirely on chapter 8 of the Gospel of John.
It's a really intense chapter.
It really is. And the mission for our deep dive today is to basically explore the profound claims, the historical mysteries, and the intense drama exactly as these study notes present them.
Because there is a lot of drama there.
Oh, for sure. But before we pull up a chair and fully unpack these sources, I do want to offer a divine blessing for you, the listener. May your day and really the entire week ahead of you be filled with insight, clarity, and peace.
I love that. That is, well, it's a wonderful way to begin, especially because the text we're looking at today really requires a lot of clarity to understand.
Yeah, it's not a simple read.
No, not at all. You know, when reading ancient sacred texts, I think people often expect a smooth, polished moral treatise, right? But the study notes for this specific chapter reveal something far more volatile. It's really a narrative that systematically dismantles the cultural and religious security of the people involved.
That is exactly the perfect thematic lens for this deep dive. The text challenges everything the audience thought they knew. And to get right into it, the chapter actually starts by challenging the actual physical text itself.
Right, the manuscript history.
Yeah. Chapter 8 opens with what has to be, one of the most famous, most frequently quoted stories in human history. Yet, when you look at these study Bibles, there was a massive asterisk sitting right next to it.
There is, yeah. The notes spend a really significant amount of time addressing this anomaly.
Right.
Because the story is the famous account of the woman caught in adultery. The scribes and the Pharisees, they bring her to Jesus as a trap.
And it's a brilliant trap, honestly.
It is. If he says she should be stoned according to the law of Moses, he breaks Roman law by authorizing an execution without their consent. But, if he says she should go free, he openly contradicts Moses.
It's deadly. And the narrative resolution is just iconic. He bends down, he writes in the dirt, which, by the way, is a detail the text never actually explains, which has driven people crazy for centuries.
Oh, absolutely. The speculation on that is endless.
Right. And then he delivers the famous line, he who is without sin among you, let him throw the first stone at her.
Yeah.
The accusers leave, starting with the oldest. He tells the woman he doesn't condemn her and to sin no more. It's a beautiful story. But then this blew my mind. The study notes reveal that verses 7.53 through 8.01 are completely absent from the oldest and most reliable Greek manuscripts of the Gospel of John.
They are just not there. And the mechanics of textual criticism explain why this is so striking. When scholars analyze distinct families of ancient manuscripts, like the earliest papyri and the most ancient codices, this entire narrative block simply isn't there.
It's just skipped over entirely.
Exactly. The text flows seamlessly from the end of chapter 7 straight into what we now consider verse 12 of chapter 8, just without missing a beat.
I want to try an analogy here to make sense of this for you listening, because the manuscript history mentioned in the notes is just wild.
It really is.
It feels like buying a special edition of a classic movie, right? A movie with a scene that everyone quotes, a scene that basically defines the main character for millions of people.
Yeah.
But then you look at the director's original script, and the scene isn't there.
That's a great way to put it.
It's essentially a deleted scene that fans loved so much, they just started editing it back into the film themselves.
The movie analogy holds up incredibly well, actually, when you look at how this story behaves in later centuries. The notes point out that when scribes finally did start including this story in the manuscripts, they didn't even agree on where it belonged.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it literally floats around the ancient texts. Some scribes inserted it after John chapter 7, verse 36. Some tacked it onto the very end of the gospel after chapter 21.
Right at the end.
Right at the end. And there is even a manuscript tradition where the story isn't in John's gospel at all. It's placed in the gospel of Luke right after chapter 21.
Okay, imagine buying 3 different copies of that movie, and that famous scene is in the middle of one, after the end credits of another, and then randomly inserted into a completely different sequel in the third.
Right.
That raises a huge question about authenticity. And the notes also mention that the Greek vocabulary used in this specific story is manifestly different from the rest of John's writing style. So if the author of John didn't write it, Are we just looking at ancient fan fiction?
Well, no, and the study notes draw a very careful line here between Johannine authorship and historical authenticity.
Okay, so what's the consensus?
The consensus they present is that the story is not fiction. The early church fathers viewed this as a completely authentic historical event from the ministry of Jesus.
Oh, interesting. So it was like oral tradition.
Exactly. It functioned as a really powerful piece of oral tradition. The early Christian community recognized it as a historical memory that was so consistent with his character and his teaching that they felt compelled to preserve it in writing.
Even if it meant grafting it into existing texts.
Yeah, exactly.
But because of that grafting process, the study Bibles offer a pretty strict warning for how a reader should actually handle the passage, don't they?
They do. They advise extreme theological caution. Because of its murky manuscript history, the notes warn that this specific passage should not be used as the sole foundation for any major doctrine.
It's a matter of textual integrity.
Right. You can appreciate the historical reality of the grace shown to the woman, sure, but you shouldn't build an entire theological framework on a passage whose origins are that fluid.
Unless that concept is clearly confirmed somewhere else in Scripture. That is just a fascinating look under the hood of how these ancient sources were actually compiled and vetted. But, the chapter doesn't give you time to catch your breath.
No, it pivots immediately.
It really does. The narrative moves from this intimate, quiet moment of a woman's life being saved into this massive, highly public, and incredibly controversial declaration.
And the geographical shift here is vital to understanding the escalation.
Yeah.
Jesus stands up and declares to the crowd, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life."
Right.
And the study notes emphasize exactly where he is standing when he says this near the treasury.
Okay, let's unpack why that specific location matters. Why does standing near the treasury change the impact of what he's saying?
Well, the original Greek term for this area is the gazophilasio. If you look at the architectural layout of the temple complex, the historian Josephus tells us this treasury was located in the court of women.
So it wasn't some back room.
Not at all. It was a massive, highly public, heavily trafficked courtyard where large, trumpet-shaped receptacles were placed for people to drop their temple offerings. It was the absolute center of public religious life.
Yeah.
Standing there to make a sweeping claim about yourself is deliberately inviting maximum scrutiny from the religious authorities.
I want to push back on the metaphor of light for a second, though.
Sure.
To a modern ear, calling yourself the light of the world sounds a little generic, right? It sounds like a poetic, philosophical way of saying, I have really good ideas, or I have a very enlightening teacher.
Yeah, like an inspiration.
Yeah, it feels like a metaphor for just having a bright philosophy. Is that all this is?
That is where the study notes dive deep into the specific Greek vocabulary. The word used here is phagosos. And the notes point out that John uses this word 23 times in his gospel, and he rarely, if ever, uses it in a casually poetic or merely literal sense.
So it isn't just about illuminating the darkness of ignorance.
Far from it. In Johannine theology, Phos represents the absolute revelation and manifestation of God's character and holiness.
Oh, one.
It is an unyielding contrast to the concept of darkness. And the notes make a crucial distinction here. People don't walk in darkness just because they are uneducated.
Right. What does the text say about that?
The text argues that people actively prefer the darkness because their works are evil. Darkness is a moral preference. It provides cover.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. The light is rejected because the light exposes the truth of their actions.
When you frame it like that, it completely changes the weight of the statement. He isn't offering a new philosophical framework for them to think about.
No, not at all.
He is standing in the most public, sacred space available, claiming to be the absolute manifestation of God's holy character on earth. That isn't a metaphor. That is a staggering, provocative claim.
It absolutely is, and it forces a confrontation. The people listening understand perfectly well that he is making an absolute claim to divine revelation, and that sparks a fierce, escalating argument that basically dominates the rest of the chapter.
The conversation makes a really interesting pivot at this point, too. It goes from a debate about light to a brutal debate over true freedom and ultimately over spiritual DNA.
Yeah, the tone shifts drastically.
It does. Jesus tells the crowd that if they hold to his teaching, they will know the truth and the truth will set them free. Which, again, sounds like a great inspirational quote to us today. but the crowd in the text get highly offended.
Their reaction is so telling because it reveals where they place their security. They immediately respond, "We are Abraham's descendants and have never been slaves of anyone. How can you say that we shall be set free?"
The historical irony of that statement is almost too much to ignore. I mean, they're saying this while literally living under Roman occupation.
The study notes highlight that exact irony. Historically, the Jewish people had been enslaved by the Egyptians, taken captive by the Babylonians, and were currently subjected to the Roman Empire.
Right. So what are they talking about?
They aren't talking about political freedom. They're talking about their spiritual and cultural identity. They believe their genetic lineage to Abraham guarantees their spiritual freedom and their standing with God.
And Jesus systematically takes a sledgehammer to that exact identity.
He really does.
He counters by telling them that anyone who sins is a slave to sin. He argues that if they were truly Abraham's children, they would act like Abraham. They would recognize and welcome the truth.
But they don't.
Right. Instead, they're actively looking for a way to kill him. And then he delivers a line that must have just sucked all the air out of the courtyard. He says, "You belong to your father, the devil."
It is a breathtaking escalation, telling an audience whose entire religious, social, and cultural foundation is built on being the chosen descendants of Abraham that their actual father is the devil is the ultimate provocation.
It's insulting on every level.
Exactly. And the study notes provide vital context here by explicitly connecting Jesus' description of the devil back to the book of Genesis. He calls the devil a murderer from the beginning and the father of lies.
Why does the text focus on those two specific titles, though? What is the deeper connection?
Well, the notes link the title of murderer directly to the story of Cain and Abel. The devil incited the very first murder in human history.
Oh, right.
And the title father of lies points straight back to the Garden of Eden. In the Genesis account, the serpent fundamentally contradicts the word of God to Adam and Eve. He presents a lie as the ultimate truth, which leads to the fall of humanity.
So Jesus is looking at this crowd and pointing out that their actions, their desire to kill him and their rejection of the truth align perfectly with the original actions of the devil in Genesis.
Spot on.
He is completely dismantling their core worldview.
And the profound insight the study Bibles offer in this section is the stark distinction between physical lineage and spiritual lineage. The text is making a really radical argument. Natural, genetic descent from Abraham is entirely insufficient for having a relationship with God.
That is a total paradigm shift for this audience.
Yeah,
It means their ancestry provides zero spiritual protection.
precisely. The notes emphasize that true lineage, a true connection to God, is proven by conduct and receptivity to the truth, not by genetics.
Wow.
By rejecting the truth standing right in front of them, and by harboring murderous intent in their hearts, they are proving that their spiritual DNA actually aligns with the devil. They are acting like their true father.
You can almost feel the psychological tension in the text reaching an absolute boiling point here. They are trapped in a theological corner.
They have nowhere to go.
Exactly. And this brings us to the climax of the chapter, because the debate over ancestry leads Jesus to make a claim about his own identity that turns this intense theological argument into an attempted public execution.
And the linguistic analysis provided in the study notes becomes absolutely essential here to understanding the mechanics of this final confrontation.
Yeah, so the crowd challenges him on his age. They say, "You aren't even 50 years old and you've seen Abraham."
Yeah.
And Jesus replies with a phrase that literally stops time. He says, "Before Abraham was, I am."
Right.
Now, if you are just reading that in English, it sounds like a tense mismatch, right? Why doesn't he say, "Before Abraham was, I was"? Why does this specific grammatical phrasing cause the crowd to instantly drop the debate and pick up stones?
The underlying Greek phrase here is ego eimi. The study notes synthesize a crucial theological connection that just unlocks the whole scene. When Jesus uses the phrase ego eimi in this specific grammatical way, he is creating a direct, undeniable link to the Septuagint, which is the ancient Greek translation of the Old Testament.
Right, okay.
Specifically, he is linking back to Exodus chapter 3, verse 14.
Wait, that is the moment at the burning bush.
Exactly the moment. Moses is standing at the burning bush, and he asks God for his name. God replies, "I am I am." God names himself as the eternal, self-existent one, the one who simply is.
Oh, man.
So when Jesus stands in the temple courtyard and says, "Before Abraham was, I am," he is not just claiming that he existed a really long time ago.
He is claiming a level of existence outside of time itself.
He is taking the eternal, uncreated name of God for himself. He is claiming a transcendence that only God possesses.
That is massive.
And the notes contain a special table that categorizes the famous I am declarations in the Gospel of John statements like, I am the bread of life, or I am the good shepherd.
Which are powerful metaphors.
Right, they are metaphors.
Yeah.
But the study Bibles classify this specific statement in chapter 8 entirely differently. This is not a metaphor, it is an absolute declaration of divine identity.
And they didn't need a study Bible to explain the Greek syntax to them. The crowd's reaction proves they understood exactly what he was saying.
Their immediate reaction is to pick up stones to kill him. And the notes explicitly link this reaction to the legal parameters of Leviticus chapter 24, verse 16.
The law on blasphemy, right?
Exactly. Under the law of Moses, claiming the divine name for oneself was considered blasphemy, and blasphemy was a capital offense.
So it wasn't just anger.
No. To the crowd standing in the treasury, this was no longer a debate over lineage or truth. It was an open and shut case of blasphemy that required an immediate, community-led execution.
It is just an incredible sequence of events. Jesus hides and slips out of the temple complex, avoiding the stones entirely. But, when you zoom out and look back at the whole chapter, it leaves you with this incredible narrative whiplash.
Oh, for sure.
And that is a provocative thought. I want you to mull over on your own as we wrap up this deep dive. Think about the sheer trajectory of this one ancient text.
The contrast from the beginning of the chapter to the end is deeply jarring.
It really is. We started this deep dive looking at what might be the ultimate act of gentle grace. Jesus diffusing a murderous mob, saving a woman's life when they were ready to crush her with stones.
Yeah.
He literally talks the stones out of their hands, using nothing but a challenge to their own morality. And yet, by the end of this very same chapter, after systematically dismantling their assumptions about light, truth, and their own core identity, a completely different mob is picking up stones to execute the very man who just modeled that grace.
It perfectly illustrates why these sources are so compelling. They aren't just dry moral manuals or simple historical records.
Not at all.
They are dynamic, explosive accounts of historical and theological tension. They challenge the reader's assumptions just as fiercely today as they challenged the people standing in that temple courtyard 2 millennia ago.
Beautifully said. That tension is really what makes studying these notes so rewarding. And that is all the time we have for our exploration today. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through the profound claims and the intense drama of this text. As we say goodbye, we want to expressly state that God blesses you, and we look forward to having you with us on the next deep dive.